How are you guys doing? Good. The Tour de France, arguably the world's most difficult athletic event. It's 21 days of racing, over 2,500 miles on some of the world's most punishing roads. It's like running a marathon every day for 3 weeks. I did the Tour de France 8 times and put every ounce of energy into that race. Getting to that final finish line in Paris was a feat in itself. But during those years, finish lines were not the only lines being crossed. Cycling at a dark side, the side I wasn't ready for, and one that pushed me over a line I thought I'd never cross. And once on the other side, there was no going back. It was the beginning of a double life, filled with secrets and lies that would destroy me from the inside, long after I left the sport. Johnny Cash once said, "Lies have to be covered up, but truths can run around naked." This is my story about lies and the truth, and what happens when you compromise your values to chase a dream, and how one bad decision can snowball into so many more. It's also about realizing that no matter how bad things get, or how impossible a situation seems, there's always a way out. When I began racing, I realized I had a special ability to endure pain. It might sound strange, but pain's something I've always been good at. It comes from my family. My dad would tell me when I was younger, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Hamiltons are tough. Another Hamilton trait was honesty. My parents didn't put many demands on us, but the one thing they wouldn't put up with was lying. Tell the truth or else, no matter what. Those are my folks. Tough and honest. With those traits, I thought I could handle just about anything. When it came to racing, I always knew I could outwork anyone, that I could win at the highest level on grit and a willingness to suffer alone. When I arrived at the top level of cycling, I did what I knew best. I worked my tail off, and I never gave up. During that time, there was a word I kept hearing the Europeans say, Paniagua. That guy's doing well. They'd say, that guy's doing well, even though he's Paniagua. Or, he'll never finish today, he's Paniagua. Eventually, I found out what they were saying was Spanish. Pan y agua, translated to English, it means bread and water. In other words, racing clean without any performance-enhancing drugs. I noticed the top guys on our team getting these little white lunch bags from the team doctors after every race. I didn't know what was in them, but I knew I wasn't getting one. Then I figured out what was going on, and that became my motivation to work even harder to prove I didn't need one. But things were about to change. One night, after a tough week-long stage race in Spain, there I was in my hotel room, collapsed on my bed, physically depleted, completely exhausted. The team doctors knew I was hurting, and one of them, Pedro Celaya, came in to check on me. He was concerned and sympathetic, almost fatherly. He told me how hard I had worked, how much I had pushed through the pain, and how he admired that in me. I had to start taking care of my body, he said, make myself healthier. Pedro always wore this fly fishing vest that had all these pockets. He reached into one of them and pulled out a little red egg-shaped capsule. He said, Tyler, this is for your health. It's not doping. It's for your health. He handed me the capsule, and there I was, at the crossroads. In or out, yes or no. I swallowed the red egg without much thought. In it was testosterone, a banned substance. Of course, I knew it was against the rules, but at that time, I had worked so hard, and I was so close to my dream of riding the Tour de France that I felt I owed it to myself to look the other way. I justified it. I told myself everybody was doing it, and it was a necessary part of competing at the top level. But I knew it was wrong, and deep down I was ashamed. But that shame was buried by a new feeling of possibility. How far can I go? How fast can I ride? How good can I be? In a strange way, it was a badge of honor. it meant the team finally thought I was good enough to get a white lunch bag. Now on the inner circle, I was next introduced to injections of a drug called EPO, or Edgar Allan Poe as we called it. EPO increases the production of red blood cells, which carry oxygen to the muscles and improve endurance. With EPO, we could train harder and longer. And in a race like the Tour de France, it was an absolute game changer. At the time, EPO was undetectable, it was fast and easy. A quick swab of the arm, a little injection, and done. Like the red egg, it didn't feel like a big deal. In the beginning, EPO and all the other drugs were given, paid for, transported, and administered by the team. Because it was all done for us, we reasoned it was the team actually breaking the rules, and we, the riders, were just the dutiful employees. But that situation changed after the '98 Tour, when police raided a vehicle of a French team and uncovered a massive amount of doping products. From that point on, it became too risky for the team to manage our doping program. We would now have to do it ourselves. Team management told us it was for safety, but now the risk of transporting and border crossing was all on us. Since there would be no EPO in the team cars anymore, how would we get it during the tour? Our team leader, Lance Armstrong, came up with a plan. His gardener, Philippe, or Motoman as we nicknamed him, would zip through the Tour de France circus and drop off the drugs to an undercover staff member. The staff member would have our syringes waiting for us, sometimes tucked in our sneakers or in our race bags. We would inject quickly, 30 seconds at the most, then throw the syringe into an empty Coke can, then would crush the can to make them look like trash, and the team doctor would toss it in the bottom of his backpack, open the door, walk past the crowds of fans, journalists, and even police. There we were in the middle of one of the world's biggest sporting events, injecting banned drugs just feet from thousands of people. People always want to know why we didn't get caught. Weren't there drug tests? Of course there were, and lots of them. But if you follow the doctor's instructions or cheat sheets, none of them were hard to beat. I passed hundreds of tests when I shouldn't have, and in the 1990s, there was no test for EPO at all. However, that changed in the year 2000. The team heard from an inside source that an EPO test could be used at the upcoming tour. We needed a new strategy. To work around the EPO test, the team decided to try a safer alternative. A couple weeks before the Tour de France, I boarded a private jet with Lance and another teammate and flew to Valencia. Below us, we could see the French Riviera, the mansions, and the yachts. It felt like a fantasy world. When we landed in Valencia, the team doctors and staff members were there on the tarmac waiting for us. As we were shuttled to the secluded hotel, the doctors told us how easy this new method would be, how safe it was, and how there was absolutely nothing to worry about. What they were talking about was blood transfusions, or blood doping. I'd heard about transfusions before, but couldn't believe athletes actually did it. It's a process where doctors will extract your blood, store it in a fridge or freezer, and then reinfuse it back into you when your body is depleted. It has the same red blood cell boosting effect that EPO has, only this was natural. But in reality, it was very serious procedure, very dangerous, and it could have serious consequences if it was done improperly. Blood transfusions are not the same as swallowing a pill or getting a little injection. Here you're watching a big clear bag fill up with your own warm red blood. You never forget it, and you never get used to it. And when you're leaving in the hands of doctors with questionable pasts, things can go wrong. After one visit, I left the doctor's office in a hurry. Hailing a cab with one arm, I felt a strange wetness on the other. I looked down to see my hand dripping with blood and my sleeve completely soaked in red. It looked as though I'd been stabbed. The hole from the extraction needle hadn't closed. That point in time characterized exactly what my life had become. There I was, on a busy street corner in Madrid, hiding behind dark glasses and a baseball cap, paranoid of being seen. In one hand, I'm holding a cell phone with code names and numbers, and the other hand is covered in blood. And down the street, in a backroom clinic, a doctor I don't really trust is stockpiling bags of my blood, all for a bike race. People ask me, why wasn't that enough to make me stop it all right then and there? My reality was so twisted by then, I reasoned it was just temporary. My career would be over in a couple years, and once it was done, I'd go back to living a normal life. So there I was, cruising up and over the French Alps and Pyrenees, the Italian Dolomites, and the Belgian Ardennes, winning at the highest level in the most famous bike races in the world. I was now the elite of the elite. I was now the elite of the elite. I fulfilled my childhood dream of becoming an Olympic champion. I truly made it. I was living the American dream. My family was so proud. Invitations came rolling in. Throw out the first pitch at a Red Sox game. Ring the opening bell on Wall Street. Nationally televised interviews. These wins, these highs, these accomplishments should have made me feel like I was on top of the world. Yet my life was spinning out of control, and I worried more about getting caught than I did about winning. But what could I do? I already walked into the casino and rolled the dice. I was in over my head. There was no turning around, no going back. And then it all came to a screeching halt. It was the second week of the 2004 Tour of Spain. I was at the peak of my cycling career, and I got the news. I'd failed a drug test. Another person's cells were detected in my blood. I assumed that the blood bags had been mixed. It was a mistake that could have killed me. So there was my moment, my opportunity to finally do the right thing. Tell the truth, take responsibility, leave all this behind, and start my life over again. Instead, with the pressure mounting, I lied. Professional cycling was a brotherhood. We lived by the omerta, a code of silence we all understood. We protected each other, we protected the system. Lying and denying was what I was supposed to do. You get caught, you say nothing, you take one for the team. That's how it was done. If I told the truth, I would have to implicate everyone involved. Dozens of people, many of them my friends, would lose their jobs, and I'll be blackballed from the sport forever. I received a 2-year suspension. For 14 years, I lied to everyone. During that time, I had two faces. The person they thought I was and the person I knew I was, a doper and a liar who was unraveling on the inside. I dealt with depression, alcohol abuse, suicidal thoughts, and feelings of self-hate that never went away. I was alone and a prisoner of my decisions. I retired in 2009. 6 years after I rode my last Tour de France, I received a subpoena at my front door. There was a federal investigation underway into Lance Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Service cycling team. I was ordered to testify in front of a grand jury. The choice in front of me was stark: tell the truth or go to jail. When I walked into that courtroom, I knew what I had to do. From the very first question, the truth came pouring out. And for the next 7 hours, I unloaded more than a decade of lies. The more I talked, the more I realized I had spent the last 14 years protecting a culture that was never worth protecting. I was breaking the omerta and the unwritten rule of the brotherhood, giving testimony that would destroy careers, hopes, dreams, and lives. But in that moment, I was free. Would I have come clean had my back not been against the wall? If nothing had changed and I still believed I had a responsibility to protect the sport, the answer is probably not. Being forced to testify gave me clarity and the courage to take back my life. For 14 years, I thought the truth would ruin me. In the end, the truth saved me. While my story happened in cycling, every industry has its unwritten rules, its own secret race. Corporate corruption is widespread. Academic cheating is at an all-time high. And a growing number of people in the workplace feel they have to bend the rules just to get ahead. Whether the rewards are money, fame, power, personal validation, a promotion, or a scholarship, the pressure to excel is taking its toll. Every day we're presented with red eggs, moments when the lure of success or fear of failure puts us to the test. Should you fudge that number just this once to meet your sales quota? Do you inflate your resume to get that dream job? Do you turn a blind eye when your boss overcharges that customer? I wish I'd been better prepared for that day Pedro walked into my hotel room. I wish I thought harder about swallowing that first red egg, about where it would lead and how out of control things would get. I wish I knew how numb victories would seem when they were achieved dishonestly. And I wish I knew then that giving back an Olympic gold medal would feel better than winning it. Thank you.